I'm Jay O'Connor, the youngest son of Sandra Day O'Connor. Normally my voice isn't quite this raspy or alluring. After a very sore throat last night, I woke up and was hardly able to speak, so I'll do my best. Mr. President, Chief Justice Roberts, and Evan Thomas, the entire O'Connor family is truly, truly honored and grateful for your generous words about our mother. We gladly shared our mother with the nation for 40 years. So imagine what it means to her sons and grandsons to hear the tributes that you've given here today and the outpouring of public admiration she has received since her death. Thank you. I would like to share with you all a son's personal portrait of the human side of our mother, focusing on what she loved, what she believed, and what she was like, especially as a mom. I should note that I've asked the choir to break into a lively song if my emotions get the better of me. Her first love was the Lazy Bee Ranch in Arizona, where she was raised, a place where she could look out across the rugged high desert, unobstructed by trees, and she could see forever. She loved books. Growing up with a Lazy Bee and living 30 miles from town was an isolating experience. Books transported her to another place as a young girl and ultimately led her to Stanford and beyond. She loved the law and the Supreme Court. She loved our country and our democracy. And most of all, she loved her family. From her father, she learned toughness. From her mother, she learned how to handle any situation with grace. Her relationship with her husband, our dad, John O'Connor, was one for the ages. They were the ultimate supporters and fans of one another in a marriage that lasted 57 years. Despite our colorful flaws, she loved her 3 sons, and she adored her daughters-in-law and the grandchildren that followed. In 2006, at age 76, she stepped down from the Supreme Court. Obviously, after her long, incredible career, it was time to kick back, play golf, and drink margaritas, right? Not for Sandra Day O'Connor. She saw a big problem looming in the country, and she decided to do something about it. She'd become concerned that citizens were increasingly disengaged from their democracy. She looked to the future, and she saw so clearly, decades before anyone else, that our democracy could not be taken for granted. She could not have been more prescient. So she started a nonprofit called iCivics, you've heard about today already, designed to teach young people how our government and how our democracy work in a way that's really fun and engaging, using online, interactive, role-based games and great content, all for free. The concept took off. Today, iCivics is used by half of all middle school and high school kids in this country and over half the schools. To you business types, let me put her iCivics accomplishment in another way. At the age of 78, our mom founded and led a hot, tech-based nonprofit startup. Within 10 years, she had achieved over 85% market share and 50% market penetration. Not too shabby. Church is a place for confession, and I feel the need to come clean today on a family secret we've protected for decades related to this very topic. Years ago, while going through my mom's papers, I came across a box containing her report cards from middle school and high school. Of course, her marks were sterling, until I was shocked to see something. A B. A scarlet B. In the first semester of a trimester of one of her classes. And imagine what class it was in. Civics. Sandra Day O'Connor once got a B in civics. In the presence of the president, the Supreme Court justices, and all of you today, I ask you this. Based on her 40-year dedication to promoting the rule of law and democracy in home and abroad, do you think she has earned enough extra credit to raise that lowly B in civics to an A? Okay. What was she like? Quite simply, she was a force of nature. When she walked into a room, everything was more vivid. She willed things into action. People had a very hard time saying no to her, except her 3 sons and some of her lively colleagues on the Supreme Court. She had unearthly energy, as one of her law clerks said of her. Her way of relaxing after a long workday was to play 3 sets of tennis or 18 holes of golf. As we heard, she would often drag her clerks out on big outings or hikes each year, rain or shine. She brainwashed us as kids to think our turbocharged level of family activities was normal. Did we really need to go to 3 family parties and a square dance, yes, a square dance, all in one night? It was not normal. She drew people in, took an interest in them, and made them feel special. Evan Thomas said a few minutes ago, she could be known as bossy. Well, her family can agree there's a lot of truth to that. But Evan, don't forget, she was the boss, the lady boss. She had fun. Mom and Dad absolutely loved to dance, and they were known as the best dancers in Washington. In this city, it was not uncommon for the dance floor to clear the moment they stepped onto it hand in hand. They were that good. In the late 70s in Arizona, they actually took lessons in disco dancing. Quick survey of the justices of the Supreme Court here with us today. Raise your hand if you have received technical training in disco dancing. That's what I thought. My mom is the first person on the Supreme Court with technical training in disco dancing. All right, what was she like as a mom? While having a very demanding full-time professional career, she was still a mom in every sense of the word. She ran absolutely everything in her home. She did it all, organizing the household, outstanding cooking, grocery shopping, getting the kids where we needed to be, planning our social calendars, taking care of her mother-in-law, everything. All while still achieving extraordinary things at work. My brothers and I all had a front row seat, and we still wonder how she did it all. She loved her own marriage, so of course she wanted to set up her 3 sons with nice young women too. My brothers and I all thought our dating lives were going great. But to our mom, we weren't married yet, so it was DEFCON 3. Once in my early 30s, she tried to set me up with a new prospect. She said, "Now, Jay, I want you to meet a delightful young woman who's the daughter of somebody I know. She's very nice. There's just one thing. Recently, she fell off a horse, and she's in a full body cast right now, but I'm sure her cast will be off in no time." That was the low point of my dating life. My mom trying to set me up with a woman in a full body cast. But in her mind, this was a pragmatic solution to the problem of a son she loved without a nice wife. Classic Sandra Day O'Connor. When some years later I met and married my amazing and beautiful wife, Heather, it was unclear who loved Heather even more, my mom or me. I say it was me, but it was close. She varied her approaches with each of her sons based on her different interests and personalities. With her hard-charging eldest son, Scott, getting him to 5:30 a.m. swim practice each morning helped him to become an all-American swimmer at Stanford. With her thrill-seeking middle son, Brian, it was a different story and a different approach. When Brian was in high school, he decided to secretly take hang gliding lessons. He knew our parents would not be thrilled. When my mother discovered a receipt Brian had accidentally dropped on the bedroom floor, smooth move, Brian, there was quite a discussion that night at the dinner table. Our parents said to Brian, hang gliding is literally the most dangerous sport in the world. We give you boys a lot of latitude, but we draw the line at hang gliding. For all we care, you could take up parachuting. So naturally, the next weekend, Brian took up parachuting. And now, 2,500 jumps later, he's an elite level parachutes and he still does 50-man formations. As for her approach with me, one important to mention was that my mom typed all my papers in high school until I took typing class in junior year of high school. Let me tell you, nothing quite focuses the mind like having Sandra Day O'Connor type and read all your English essays. To her tremendous credit, she never took out her red editing pen on my papers. She typed them exactly as written. It must have been torture for her. I can assure you that her law clerks did not enjoy the same special treatment. We had lots of interesting conversations around the dinner table. And of course, my mom asked probing questions. On the court, as Chief Justice Roberts just explained, she was known for always asking the first questions at oral arguments, searing questions that cut to the heart of the case. Where do you think she developed those world-class interrogation skills? Once she arrived at the Supreme Court? Hardly. She finally honed those techniques from years of grilling her 3 sons about what time we had come home on Saturday night. To the trial attorneys of America, you're welcome. What were our mom's maxims for us as kids? The sayings that she drilled into us over and over again. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. Get it done. Does that sound familiar, Chief? And her most repeated command of all, don't hit your brother. And amazingly, these very maxims were some of the exact same strategies she used to make herself so successful in life and on the Supreme Court. I'm serious. Don't hit your brother was the first lesson in her own philosophy that she taught us over time, to not lash out at anyone, even your opponent, and to treat everyone with kindness and respect. This approach allowed her to navigate every situation with grace and goodwill. In 1987, 36 years ago, she wrote out by longhand a letter to her 3 sons and sealed it, not to be opened until near the end of her life. Included were detailed instructions about what should happen when she died. This included what she wanted at her funeral, her favorite music to include, some key readings, and more. The unmistakable theme of her selections was justice on earth. How fitting. It won't surprise you to know that we are following her instructions here today to a T. And in the letter, she also wrote her final message to her sons. This included the following passage. Our purpose in life is to help others along the way. May you each try to do the same. Our purpose in life is to help others along the way. What a beautiful, powerful, and totally Sandra Day O'Connor sentiment. And it is so clear to Scott, Brian, and me that she lived her own life in complete accord with this purpose. So now that she has completed the circle, her family will take her remains back to her beloved Lazy Bee Ranch, back to Round Mountain, where she can hear the 2 giant windmills spin and creak in the wind, and where she learned how to see forever across the high, open desert. back to the sacred place where her extraordinary life began. What do we say to this special person, this little cowgirl, this remarkable woman from a remote cattle ranch in Arizona, this mother, this justice who did so much for so many people? We say to her, we thank you. We love you. We will never, ever forget you.